Welcome to Pro Playmakers video blog number 57. This one is translatable skill analysis. So I talk about translatable skill quite often because it's really a foundational component of what we do around here, and what we do with our players is try to identify what parts of their game will translate to the next level that they're trying to play for, and what part of their game will have a short shelf life, or something that will not work at the next level and actually be a hindrance to them. So it's one thing to have a skill set that doesn't help you. It's another thing that's going to prevent you from being able to play at that level or be effective, or will reduce your role going into the next level. So for example, if you were a scorer at one level, but the way in which you try to score, that is going to be difficult for you to do or unrealistic for you to do at the next level, then that's something that will prevent you from scoring, which once you stop scoring at a reasonable clip, that's going to drop you down into the depth chart. So we want to identify skill sets and analyze those skill sets to try to determine what is going to translate from one level to the next, and what part we got to start to eliminate as things that made the player successful but are not necessarily going to keep them going. So that's what translatable skill is. It's a reflection of what the next level looks like in comparison to how a player is being successful at the current level. Now, what are some of the common things to look for? So I try to give a bit of a cross-section here of some skills. There's a ton of translatable skills, obviously. The list is in the hundreds. So I'm going to pinpoint here 7 or 8 just to give you a good sense of kind of what you're looking for, and how to start to pinpoint when you're taking a player from, say, Pee Wee to Bantam, or you're taking a player from Bantam to Midget, or whatever. Even a kid from novice to Atom, there's skills that don't translate. So all the way up, I see all the time kids that are really, really successful at a certain level, and someone comes to me and says, "Daryl, you have got to see this kid. He's a phenom. It's unbelievable. You got to watch him." So then, of course, when I see the player play, I see that the skill set that he has that makes him so dominant at that level will not at all make him dominant at the next level. So for me, I always say I hope that player has some good guidance, because if he doesn't, he's going to fall by the wayside, because none of his skills are going to translate. He'll be the best Atom player to ever play, and no one will know him when Pee Wee or Bantam. What are the common skills? One of them, so like I said, there's 7 or 8 here we're going to take a look at. First one here is tight turn. So in all the skating programs that you go to and skill development, you see the 2-foot turn. It's a wider turn. The idea is to get your weight on the inside foot to the closest to the direction that you're trying to go, and then you get your weight on the outside foot, away you go. What happens to these guys is they develop a dominant skate. So let's say their dominant foot is their right foot. So what will happen to these guys is that when they go to turn, you can clearly see when they turn going to their right, their weight is on the proper foot. It's on the right foot, it's on the inside foot closest to the direction in which they're trying to go. Great. When they go to the left, they still turn with their right foot. You can see the weight is clearly on the right foot. Even though the left foot is on the ice, you can tell there's no weight, it's not weight bearing. The weight is now on the outside foot. So now the right foot is doing all the change of direction. Once that occurs, once you identify that, any type of change of direction, the player will turn with effectively the power on one foot, because the more he even turns to the right, he releases the weight off the back of the left foot. When he goes to the left, he continues to put the weight on the right. He's turning and changing direction only with one foot. So now you go to the next level where everyone can turn. The game's just a little bit faster, and you can't make as wide a turn. If he has a deficiency in the way in which he turns, or has a dominant skate that is clear, that's going to be a problem for him and change his direction. He's going to be less likely to turn. And then you take a look at his stopping. You look at the stop turn. You look at all those change of direction turns, and you're going to see that habit is going to be well formed, and it'll be an inhibitor for that player going forward. So that's an easy one for kids that when they're really young, you want to make sure that when they turn, their weight is on the foot closest to the new direction they're trying to go. then when they shift to the other foot, that weight comes on the other foot. If it doesn't, that's going to become a skill gap, and it's going to become a skill that's going to prevent them from getting to the next level at some point. Something they could learn when they were 10 years old that may prevent them from being an effective player in a variety of different aspects. The problem with that one is how many times do you turn? You're always turning. Turn all the time. So now the one skill that has a large amount of uses in a game, that's one that you have a deficiency in. That's going to show up, and that's going to prevent you from being effective. The crossover pivot. So for all you defensemen out there, early on, of course, when the kids are younger, you can cross over. It's really important that you cross over because it's difficult to generate the speed going backwards to match the speed of the oncoming forward when you're not crossing your feet. So as young players, they tend to cross their feet a lot just to be able to match that speed, which is fine. Problem is, it creates a compensation later on. So now, once the kids get into an older age where they become more tactical in the way that they think, any defenseman who tends to pick his foot up to cross his feet is putting himself at a competitive disadvantage, because I'm going to teach my forwards that the second he leans and picks his foot up to cross his feet, you're going to go the other way. And so this player is going to be a victim of a lot of good one-on-one moves, and he's going to become the highlight of the night on the wrong side of the puck because of that overuse of the crossover pivot. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're going to use that crossover pivot. It's not applicable, because it is. It's not a skill that has to leave you, but only in that one situation, like in an oncoming one-on-one. If you're using a crossover inside of that pivot, that's going to become a major problem. You're going to get exposed. It's going to be a major issue. So for defensemen, that's something to look for, because they can do a lot on all the other sides of the puck. And you got to remember that the scout's not really looking at whether he's using a crossover pivot. He's basing himself on results. So he watches this guy 10 games, and every game he gets beat to the inside. He doesn't care why. He's just saying the guy gets beat to the inside, he probably has bad perception, or he's just terrible one-on-one, or he takes too many chances, or whatever the case may be. But the root issue is his inability, is this crossover pivot, and that's a major problem. So that's a skill that's not going to translate. Also, sticking with defensemen, the poke check. So you get these kids that like to do the poke and run. So as the player's coming, the level of ability on puck skill level for the forward is not as high, so they're able to poke check the puck. They're able to hide it really well. Sometimes they're able to sweep it, and they just poke the puck and take off. The longer the player is successful with that, the more likely he is going to want to use it, and then ultimately he's going to put himself in a spot where the player that's attacking him is tactical, has good hands, so once you reach out like that, you extend your arm, now you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to get exposed. So the poke, and the other problem with guys who use poke checks is that they use the poke check at the expense of good body position. So they know at some point they're going to be able to get their stick on the puck, or they have in the past, so now they lose that perception and that alignment of the body. And so now when it's really time to go in, close the gap, and make a play on a contact with the player, they're too busy fishing for the puck. That's something you got to be very careful with. Any kid that excels at a poke check, once he has it and is very good at it, you got to try to get now body position to go in with that and create balance between the number of times he uses a poke check and the number of times in which he's able to read when it's appropriate to not use a poke check and just guide the player, close his ice off, and make contact. So very important. Balanced puck skills. So what does that mean? Balanced puck skills means any skill that you're going to use when your feet are balanced. So the weight is distributed equally between both feet, and now this is your puck skill. So any puck skill that you're going to do inside of that structure has a short shelf life, because what will happen is now I have to, if I love puck skills when my feet are balanced, what happens is that any pucks that come to me that I have to catch, I'm going to stay right here. And my likelihood is anytime I go outside of this, I'm going to be off balance. We see this a lot with kids, and you see them when they shoot with that 1 foot inside foot shot. They shoot it, the reason why they shoot it that way is because they're off balance. That when they catch the puck, they're literally off balance. So now when it's time to shoot, they can't do it. So any player that cannot move and shift his weight from 1 foot to the other inside of puck skills is going to struggle in the high-end puck skills, is going to make you successful going forward. So why can a player get a shot off and another player can't? Well, because one player is balanced, and once you're balanced, you have to stop your feet to do anything. So you see these kids, as they're growing up, they got that wicked wrist shot, which is great. They score from 25 feet because the goalie can't catch. And everyone's afraid to get in front of the puck. Now we fast forward 2 years. No one cares about that because they're going to be able to block the shot. The goalie now can catch the puck, and so now he's got to be able to generate power. And he can't generate power because he's balanced. He's not able to transfer his weight. And if you don't have weight transfer, you're going to struggle with elite puck skills. So elite puck skills come from weight transfer. If you don't have weight transfer, that's going to be the prerequisite to be able to acquire some of those skills. Because you can have dirty hands here in the front, but if you can't move it from side to side and transfer your weight and generate escape skills, which come from weight transfer, that's going to be a problem.